Many yoga students and some yoga teachers would describe yin yoga as deep stretching or restorative yoga with more sensation. Neither is quite right, and the gap between those labels and the real practice is why so many yin yoga classes leave students shrugging. I'm Sage Rountree. I help yoga teachers build confidence and build sustainable teaching careers. And I created a course called Fundamentals of Teaching Yin Yoga, because yin is the class teachers are most often asked to teach without fully understanding the approach. I have personally practiced and taught yin yoga for over 20 years, and I have studied with Paul Grilly and Sarah Powers, two of the people who built this practice. Today, I'm giving you a definition of yin yoga you can use with students, studio owners, or anyone who asks. By the end of this video, you'll be able to define yin in one sentence, you'll be able to name the 3 principles that make it work, and you will know how to set expectations for your yin yoga class so clearly that first-timers relax before the first shape even begins. And I made you a free download called the 20-Minute Yin Sequence, a complete 3-shape yin class, or yin segment of class, with exactly what to say at entry, midpoint, and exit. Grab it in the description and you can teach it this week. Here's something refreshing. Yin yoga does not claim to be ancient. Its principles are rooted in Taoist philosophy, yin and yang, the 2 koi fish swimming in a pond. You might have had them on a patch in your jean jacket in the 1980s. Yin is the black fish in the pond. It's the shady side of the mountain. It represents stability, coolness, and receptivity. Yang is the white fish, the sunny side of the mountain. It represents movement and warmth and activity. And this is why the yin yoga practice matters right now. Most of our students don't just practice in a yang way, they live whole days in yang mode, pushing, achieving, making things happen. Yin offers an hour or more of the opposite, not pushing, letting things happen. The practice as we know it came together over the last 50 years through 3 people, and these names are worth knowing. Polly Zink was a martial arts champion in the 1970s who blended hatha yoga, Chinese martial arts, and animal movements into what he called Taoist yoga. Paul Grilly encountered Zink's work in the 1980s and recognized what it was really doing, targeting connective tissue, the layer traditional yoga overlooks. He integrated it with his study of anatomy and traditional Chinese medicine. Paul's book Yin Yoga is beautiful, and I have studied with him and his wife Susie, which is why he's Paul to me. And Sarah Powers, who coined the term yin yoga, added a layer of Buddhist mindfulness. Her book Insight Yoga goes deep on the meridian systems, if that's your interest. My own approach to yin yoga leans less on the energetics and more on the mental and physical experience of the long holds. That's where I have watched the practice change people. 2 teaching points come out of that history of yin yoga. First, there is no governing body for yin yoga, no alignment rulebook for yin yoga, and no certifying board for yin yoga. Yin yoga is malleable, it's adaptable, it's almost open source, which is good news for your teaching. Second, hold your claims to a standard. The yoga classroom is a place where big statements sometimes get made without much grounding in physiology. Scratch the surface, and even traditional Chinese medicine turns out to be less ancient than advertised. A healthy dose of skepticism will serve you and your students well. You don't need to make sweeping statements about meridians or fascia science, which is always changing, in order to establish your authority in the yoga classroom. Let the power of the practice itself do that. Now here's the 1-sentence definition I want you to walk away with. Yin yoga applies gentle, sustained stress to the deep connective tissues, fascia, ligaments, and joint capsules through long, still, passive holds. The key word there is sustained. Paul Grilly's analogy, which I love. If you want to straighten your teeth, you don't wiggle them forcefully toward where you want them to go. You get braces. A low-grade stress held a long time that lets the yin tissue adapt slowly. That's the yin ethos. And notice, this is the same principle of physiology you already know from any kind of physical sports training. The principle of specificity and also the principle of progressive overload. Yin just sets the dials differently. In yin yoga, we go for low frequency. Each pose generally happens once. We go for medium to high duration, 2 to 6 minutes per hold. And we go for intensity that builds over time instead of arriving all at once straight out of the gate. 3 principles govern the yin yoga practice. Appropriate stress, like a tree growing in a coastal wind, enough load to stimulate change without harm. Stillness, not just holding still in a yoga game of statue, but staying present with whatever arises. And time, gentle, consistent effort is what creates lasting change. And the research is friendlier to yin yoga than you might expect as long as you keep your claims modest, like I asked you to. Robert Schleip's work treats fascia as a sensory organ. Gentle, sustained stress appears to improve tissue hydration and gliding, and it sharpens proprioception, your students' felt sense of where they are in space. Helene Langemann's studies describe connective tissue as a body-wide signaling network that responds to gentle mechanical load. Gentle compression of the joints also stimulates synovial fluid production, which supports joint health. And the long holds nudge the nervous system toward its parasympathetic side, which is why your students float out of yin class looking like they've had both a massage and a nap. Notice how measured those claims are. That's the standard to hold in class, too. Here are 3 contrasts that might help the definition stick for you. Number 1, yin yoga is not gentle yoga. Gentle yoga is like a Swedish massage, pulsing, repetitive, light pressure, the body moving the whole time. Yin yoga is like a deep tissue massage, firm, very slow, deliberate stress applied to specific tissues. Yin yoga is not restorative yoga. Restorative yoga has 0 target sensation. In fact, if a student feels a stretch in a restorative pose, the props probably need adjusting. Yin yoga is the opposite. Students work at an intelligent edge, often like a 4 or a 5 out of 10, and the whole point is learning to stay present with sensation. Come through and watch my playlist on restorative yoga here. Yin yoga is not a stretch class. The goal isn't flexibility for its own sake. And in a moment, I'll show you in your own body why more flexibility isn't automatically better. Yin's deeper teaching is discernment, learning what can change, what can't, and developing the wisdom to know the difference. Here's a lesson from Paul Grilly that will upgrade your teaching in every style of yoga, not just in yin. Your ability to move into any shape in the asana catalog is limited by one of 2 things, tension or compression. Feel the difference with me right now. Extend one arm straight and press your other hand against the back of that straight elbow. What do you feel? Probably a whole lot of nothing, just the sense that the joint has hit the end of the line. That's compression, bone meaning bone. It might carry a slight pinch, but it doesn't hurt. And no assist or ballistic pulsing would change it. It just is what it is. Now, I broke my left elbow when I was 11, and after surgery, you might see it extends at a slightly different angle than my right. That's the other way to change bones. You could change them all at once, either in an accident like falling off a swing or on an operating table. Braces are gentler. I don't recommend my method. Now, take your same arm out to the side and draw it back. Do you feel a tug across your chest? That sensation is tension, muscle, soft tissue talking. And after a few breaths, your nervous system says, okay, sure, you can do this. And the muscles begin to let go, and your arm can move farther back with every repetitive pulse. Because tension can change over time. Compression can't. This one distinction does 2 important things for your teaching. First, it explains why the same pose looks wildly different body to body. If you want a rabbit hole, look at the bone photographs at paulgrilly.com/bones. The same bone, dramatically different shapes from skeleton to skeleton. You will never cue a one-size-fits-all pose again. Second, it invites the question almost nobody asks in a yoga class. How much flexibility is enough? My background is in yoga for athletes, and I know that runners actually need a degree of stiffness in the hips for efficiency. A marathoner who could melt into the full splits would leak energy at every foot strike. They'd be like a spongy, sloppy runner. The answer is enough flexibility for healthy range of motion in the life your student actually lives, and not 1 degree more. Yin yoga gives your students the laboratory to work on what can change and to make peace with what can't. Here's my favorite yin yoga story. Let me tell you a little story about my husband, Wes. He is a native North Carolinian. This will matter in a moment. And he typically approaches yoga class with a real gritted out mindset. He calls it yoga. He joined me teaching at the Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health one year and took his first yin class in an afternoon session I led. And afterward, he announced, "You shouldn't call that yin yoga. You should call it win yoga." Since it was a yoga for athletes weekend, I said, "Oh, sure, because it gives you the mental edge to stay focused in the face of intensity." "No," I said, because the whole time it was happening, I was wondering, when is this ever going to be over? That's the North Carolinian accent at play. When is when. Here's the lesson. Students have strong reactions to yin. Strong affinity or strong aversion. Both are normal and both are information. Part of our job as yoga teachers is helping students navigate whichever one shows up. Now, here are some phrases you can borrow tonight if you're teaching yin. For a first-timer, in yin, we are down on the floor the whole time, so blankets and props will be your friends. The practice can be sweet, almost restorative, or it can be pretty spicy. You hold the cards. Everything I offer is a suggestion. It is never a personal challenge. Here's the 3-part process for yin, which is the whole practice in one breath. We find the appropriate degree of stress, we settle in and grow still, and we stay a while. And here's some language around the edge. I would say something like, you should be only mildly aware of the target area in the first few breaths. If you're more than mildly aware, you've probably been overly ambitious. Dial it back, and time will turn the volume up for you. And here's a line for discernment. This belongs in every class. Some amount of discomfort is normal here, but pain is not. Anything sharp, shooting, or electric means you should come out and rebuild the shape. And if a limb falls asleep, just move and reposition. How do you describe yin to a student who's never tried it? Do you lead with the tissue science or the stillness part or the yin-yang philosophy? Drop your 1-sentence version in the comments. I read every one. If you want something to teach this week or to experiment with on your own, grab the free 20-minute yin sequence in the description. It's a balanced sequence with the exact cues for entry, midpoint, and exit. And if you want the complete system, the physiology of yin in plain language, a full pose database with video demos, done-for-you lesson plans, a swipe file of what to say during every hold, and 20 Yoga Alliance CEUs, check out Fundamentals of Teaching Yin Yoga. It's self-paced and it's built for working yoga teachers. The link is in the description. Now you have a definition that holds up. Next step, how to plan and teach a full yin class, start to finish. I will link that video right here. See you in the next one.